Welcome back to our training series on recruiting the next generation of crime fighters. And once again, thanks to Safeguard Recruiting for their commitment to providing law enforcement with the resources and tools needed to properly staff our law enforcement agencies and ultimately protect our communities. In the last video, I exposed some of the myths that we tend to have about recruiting. And in this video, I want to give you some proven strategies that have worked in other industries, including one very important one that has a similar goal of law enforcement: protection. The United States military has a tough role when it comes to recruiting, and they have to convince young men and women to go a different direction than most of their friends and colleagues and volunteer at very low pay and serve in a capacity that could likely place them in a foreign country in extreme danger. How does the United States military meet the recruiting target each year, which is really important for our country, by the way? It's simple. It's not easy. They spend millions of dollars on their recruiting efforts that involves full-time recruiters in virtually every community in America, and tons of research and a lot of advertising pretty much everywhere. And I get it. Law enforcement doesn't have those kind of resources, and we're not pulled together as one organization like the military. But with that said, we can learn a lot from it. Number one, we must engage early. There's a reason why military recruiters go to middle school and high school. They know that the earlier they can engage with potential candidates, the better success they have. Same is true for colleges and college athletics. It's not uncommon for seventh graders to be contacted by colleges or contacted by a coach. Why would a college or a sports team or military recruiters spend time and resources on a potential candidate that may be 5 or 6 years away from even being eligible? Because they know in those 5 or 6 years, those potential recruits will be making important life decisions, and when they do, they want to be included in it. See, you, as a law enforcement agency, you have this same ability and you have it now. Probably already involved in local schools, or you run community-based programs that reach out to the youth, and that's great. But we often treat those, once again, as marketing instead of recruiting. We've got to treat that as recruiting, and we have to message accordingly. In addition, what you're doing in those areas, consider getting phone numbers and emails or other contacts and stay in contact with those individuals. You can certainly do this by yourself, but the messaging matters and the frequency matters. There's actual science behind this in the professional recruiting firms. You may not want to go deep into pay or benefits as they're younger, or the ability to become a detective when you're talking to a 14-year-old, but as they graduate and get older and they get closer to being eligible, you're going to want to change that messaging. And as you know, I'm a fan of Safeguard Recruiting. You don't have to be a paying member for them to help you. They've actually helped me a lot. I haven't paid them a dime. They actually have a program in place where they target individuals that aren't yet eligible by age. And they actually will begin the recruiting process by an agency very early. This brings up a vital point. Your recruiting cannot begin a year from your academy or 6 months from when you believe the shortage will begin. You need to recruit early. You need to recruit often. Real recruiting is always happening, whether you need officers now or you need them a couple years down the road. A successful recruiting plan always has a recruiting pool, so when the time comes to hire, you're ready to go. Number two, and I mentioned this earlier, we must reimagine our community outreach. You like that word, don't you? We must reimagine our community outreach. Citizens Police Academies, Junior Police Academies, or PAL programs should be much more than simply a feel-good program to gain support for law enforcement. I love those programs, by the way. But it also should serve as an early olive branch to plant the seed that law enforcement could be a career for them. To do this, you can't just see a kid one day during an event. You must engage early, you must engage often, you must form relationships that could possibly send them on a completely different career path that they would have never considered otherwise. By the way, that is recruiting, right? Once again, it's simple but not easy. Number three, the military doesn't just assign full-time recruiters, but they actually select personnel that have the talent and training to do that job. Recruiting is a specialized position, and if law enforcement is going to be successful, they must take the position seriously, whether it's full-time or whether it's part-time. I'm gonna be honest with you. Not every law enforcement recruiter is created equal. And we all know there are some that aren't really there for the right reasons. Listen, they may have good intentions, but they don't have the skills or the energy to actually do what must be done. I will say, I think most are fantastic, but if we're honest, we can take it more seriously. In fact, the majority of law enforcement agencies don't even have a full-time recruiter. It's a side gig, it's part-time. It's when they need it. This has to stop if we're ever going to staff our communities the way we once did. Number four, recruiting must be present. What do I mean by this? Well, consider the United States military once again. Do they simply rely on their billboards or their fancy commercials? Nope, they're everywhere, right? In fact, they're probably in your mall right now. They're probably the only ones in the mall right now in America. They're on Main Street, they're in your schools. They are present and they are constantly making contact with others. It's even more important for law enforcement. Listen, it's no secret that in recent years, a lot of folks have been given a false and negative impression of our great profession. Seems like it's been everywhere, hasn't it? Well, we should be everywhere as well. Number 5, we must leverage technology. Recruiting cannot be Monday through Friday, a 9-to-5 operation. It must be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can use technology to help you with that. It's a huge topic that I spend quite a bit of time on in my training seminars. I don't have time to go into all the tools out there today, but they are excellent and they're being used by professional recruiters as I speak. And they are there because they've been successful for a lot of other industries, and we must use them. Wouldn't it be a good idea that as soon as someone asks for information on your website or your social media post, that they immediately receive an email and a text with a lot of information on it? Or they get another message the very next day as well, or within a few hours, an actual recruiter actually reaches out to them. It'd be great, wouldn't it? By the way, you can see this at universities. They do it for a reason. It works. Go to any school website, request information on the form that you will see that pops up right in front of you when you go to the website. And you're going to immediately get an email with a ton of information, and more than likely someone's going to call you actually within the hour. Last time I did it, within 30 minutes, I got a phone call. This is not happening by luck or it doesn't happen by chance. It's technology and it's effort. This is actually a tool that Safeguard uses for their clients. In fact, go to the website, safeguardrecruiting.com. Right after this video, go to the website, test it out. Right on the front page, you can test out their live recruiting demo, and you can see for yourself how this can make a difference. I've thrown a lot at you today, a lot to consider. I'm gonna give you more in future videos. Before I go, let me say this. It's not easy to consider a different path, or it's not easy to ask for help on issues. And as a 30-year veteran law enforcement myself and a current police commander, I know all that too well. But I applaud you for being here. I thank you for listening. Stay with me longer. Stay with me in future videos because we're only getting started.